Children are the future, but as class sizes in schools increase, how can teachers possibly cater to your child's individual needs? Introducing T.A.i, your substitute teaching assistant. T.A.i creates a virtual assistant based on your child's teacher from recorded data captured both inside and outside of the classroom. So when your child needs help, the teacher is always available. Don't take our word for it though. See for yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Mr. T.A. Swindon, and I've been part of the first rollout of this T.A.i system at Abbey Grove Academy. So the problem that we were responding to was increasing class sizes and struggling to cater to the individual needs of children as class sizes continued to rise and staff shortages were not where they needed to be. We solved this problem using machine learning. In the past decade, there have been many advances in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. And this has allowed us to create this system called T.A.i. See, we had the hardware already, we just needed the software. T.A.i works using an AI algorithm that takes in data from various sources in order to mimic a sort of almost photorealistic version of the teacher, which then replaces the virtual assistant on school-provided devices. We did have some ideas at one point of having it be its own standalone system on an Android or on some sort of device, but then we realised students have iPads. Teachers have been giving them technology for years, and we finally found a really good use for them. So some background, this is the behind the scenes of how the T.A.i system works. This is my dashboard of T.A.i Classroom. You can see the recent interactions that it's had, that the duplicate of me has had with other students in the class, or other things that it's done. For example, marking students' work, answering questions, teaching lessons to students who were at home sick, and all sorts. On the right here you can see the data sources that I have enabled. So you can see it's got in-class video, which is cameras that were set up in the class, in-class audio, which we had to install some microphones. For other things, we were able to put a firmware modification on Google Home and Amazon Echo devices, which we happen to have anyway. We've been recording the interactive whiteboard PC, and then there's also been these two at the bottom, the social media analyzer and the smartphone monitor, which were tied to my personal social media and smartphone to pick up my mannerisms, to be able to recreate me as a teacher. I've disabled the smartphone monitor. The reason for this, as you can see on the graph, it was in December when I went through a particularly difficult divorce and said some things that I didn't want my AI duplicate to repeat to students. Unfortunately it did at one point, but I turned it off and I haven't put it back on since. Great! This is the virtual model which it creates based on the observations that it's recorded of me. This is its estimate of how my brain works. I don't really understand it. I am a maths and science teacher, but this is beyond me. So without further ado, let's see it in action. I got some of my students to record videos of them using the system either in class or at home, and this was a few of the cases that they were able to record. So this was in a lesson that I was teaching. As we can all see here, the term simultaneous clearly means at the same time. So by definition, a simultaneous equation just means two equations that are done at the same time. I find the best.
Sir?
Jason, how can I help you?
I can't do this equation.
I see. I'll tell you what. Show me the problem now.
Okay.
Uses the front-facing camera.
Well, Jason, you're a smart lad. You can work out how to make these equal to each other.
Well, can I times it by 0?
There you go. See? You're doing fine.
Thanks.
See you later.
And that buddy can do one equation while you solve the other, thereby solving them simultaneously. So that was one case. This was another case of somebody doing some revision at home.
Sir?
Yes, Samantha.
Just been revising.
Excellent.
And I just don't understand why there's more matter than antimatter in the universe.
Why don't you have a look back at when we covered this in class? Now, for the longest time, the question of why there was more matter than antimatter in the universe remained an unsolved question of physics. This was, of course, until we discovered that the universe was in fact actually sneezed out of the nose of the great green arc procedure. And in much the same way that when you have a blocked nose, one nostril tends to be more bunged up than the other, the same was true of the arc procedure. All the antimatter was in the more bunged up nostril, and the other one
was completely fine. Did that help? Not really. Okay, let me try and explain it a different way. You know when you've got a pair of broken earphones and one earphone just stops working, but you carry on listening to it anyway? Yeah. Well, basically the reason why we have more matter than antimatter is basically the same reason as that, but with nostrils. Ah, I think I get it now. Thanks, sir.
So it was able there to not just use a recording, but to formulate its own way of explaining something in a new way. And this was the third one where we were able to track when students are procrastinating using their school devices.
Well, I don't really get TikTok, do you? Nope, I don't really get TikTok, do you?
Peter, this is a friendly reminder that you do have an assignment due tomorrow, and watching TikTok is not going to help you with that.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Apology accepted. Now come on and use your school equipment for the reason that it was given to you.
Fine. Guess I'll do work.
There we go. Some other non-recorded use cases we had was one of the ones that was shown was marking work. It's been very helpful for me to be able to focus on planning my lessons because I haven't had to mark any of the work and it's done all of that. It's been able to have some pastoral conversations when I was unavailable. It's also helped with supply teaching when I've been away. Sometimes I have to get a supply teacher in, but other times if it's a lesson that I've taught before and the AI has learned, then it's able to deliver that lesson completely on my behalf. It was also very useful at the staff concert we had at the end of the year last year when one of the teachers performed a barbershop quartet using just them and AI duplicates of themselves. We also, the science department decided to perform the Monster Mash, but Mrs. Norwood didn't want to perform, so we just borrowed an iPad from one of her students and got her AI to do it. So, you know, she didn't miss out. We've had a few problems. So as mentioned before, there is some bad data, there's some data that you don't want to end up on there, but this is being ironed out. Some people are having privacy concerns, but really it's the modern world, how can you expect to be private? One different thing which we didn't expect was some inappropriate interactions that people have had. It turns out that when you give some students a portable version of their teacher, they tend to mess around with them. And one student asked his religious studies teacher to, quote unquote, talk dirty to him, which was not appropriate, and he was therefore suspended. Another problem that some people have raised is that it might produce narcissism in teachers, as we're constantly hearing our own voices. To people who say this, I say, well, you're not me, so how would you know? I'm clearly smarter than you. And that's it. Any questions?